to the table to engage in the act of bargaining when they realize that they've incurred penalties that are far too costly for the Russian government, for the Russian military. That's just true. So this act from the Ukrainian military was a last-ditch effort to try and show Russia that they still got some smoke, that they can still make this costly for them. It's a way to get Vladimir Putin, if this is a way to get Vladimir Putin to recognize that this is too costly and more of this could potentially happen, then great. Hopefully they can get to the ceasefire, get to the table to do an actual ceasefire proposal. From what I understand, they hit 41 bomber planes. 41. That is insane. And not a single Ukrainian operator or agent that conducted this campaign died. In terms of the war of attrition, and I don't know if it's actually 41 planes that are now inoperable. All I'm saying is, contrary to what Israel did in Lebanon with the pager attack, this one I think is infinitely more valid, regardless of who is giving total backing to Ukraine, which is the entirety of the Western world. Well, not as much anymore. You don't actually think someone like Putin will sign a deal, right? Like, why are we just removing reality and thinking he's some thought-provoking man that will peacefully chill out? Did I say that? Did I say he'll peacefully chill out? No, I didn't say that at all. I said, if this becomes costly enough, only then will he look at the deal in front of him and recognize it as a good one. If he doesn't consider this deal to be a good deal, as he currently does not, because he thinks he can get more gains on the ground, he can have a better foothold by militarily punishing Eastern Ukraine and overtaking or pushing the battle lines further and further towards Kyiv.
This morning, astonishing footage capturing in real time Ukraine's surprise drone attack on some of Russia's key airfields. Smoke rising into the air, the coordinated drone strike hitting at least 4 locations, crippling nuclear-capable bombers stationed deep inside Russia.
It looks like around 30% or higher of their strategic bombers were destroyed. Some of these drones were as low as $500, taking out million-dollar aircraft. It was a blow tactically, it was a blow strategically, and it was a blow politically.
This video shows the widespread damage. More than 40 aircraft in flames following an operation that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said was one for the history books. An attack that Ukrainian sources tell ABC News was a year and a half in the making. The drones capable of striking Russia after first being smuggled into the country on what appear to be shipping containers. The containers equipped with retractable roofs that could be opened remotely. And when the timing was right, Ukraine struck. Drones seen here in video shared online flying out on their mission. The Ukrainians did not inform the U.S. ahead of time.
Cap. I guess the only reason why I would believe that is because they just don't trust the Trump administration not to leak the details to Vladimir Putin ahead of time. I still think that America had a hand in this, okay? I do. America has a hand in everything that Ukraine does, okay? However, the reason why it's more believable than ever before is because of America's current posture. Like, I could see the CIA not informing Donald Trump. Donald Trump is basically a couple steps removed from talking about how Ukraine is the enemy of mankind, like Tim Pool, bro. He also does not want to offend the sensibilities of Vladimir Putin, who he often repeats is not behaving like himself. Whenever he talks about Vladimir Putin, like, I don't know, bombing civilian targets or whatever, he just keeps going, oh, this is not like you, Vladdy Poo. It is exactly like him. What the do you mean? What is he like if not this? I can see both sides of this argument. On the one hand, maybe they finally got the Trump and got him to recognize that, like, unless there's additional pressure on Russia, he's not going to come to the table, and he's just basically playing you like a fiddle. Or they just didn't tell him at all until after the fact because they were worried he would still leak it to Vladimir Putin because Donald Trump knows Vladdy gets mad when things like this happen. And I'm sure Vladimir Putin, with the remaining bombers that they have, will probably punish the Ukrainian civilian population for this.
The second round of peace talks set to get underway in Istanbul, Turkey, with so much at stake. But
can we all admit that Turkey is not only at the table, but is the table, and that Ukraine probably did this because they're jealous? They did not want Turkey to be so prominently featured in this peace process. Isn't Erdogan a Georgian? He is, yeah.
Ukraine attacked bases deep inside Russia, thousands of miles from the front lines in what they're calling Operation Spiderweb. Ukrainian officials said that dozens of Russian warplanes were destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely startling, the sophistication of this raid. One of these air bases hit almost halfway across Siberia. The Ukrainian security service able to use mobile wooden homes. Essentially, the roofs of them seem to have opened up and allowed these clouds of drones remotely piloted to target some of Russia's most important long-range strategic bombers. 41 damaged, according to Ukraine's security service, at air bases that must have thought they were basically far enough away to be impregnable. Ukraine very keen to announce that all the people involved in this year-and-a-half-long operation have since left the country. And yet another sign of how Ukraine able to use its outsized use of technology to inflict significant damage on Russia's enormous military.
Europe, together with America, has better weapons than Russia. We also have stronger tactical solutions.
Mr. President, you have to allow us to blow up the Russian airplanes. They are saying you are Taco, Mr. President. I do not believe. I'm sorry. Now do Hamas. They don't even, Hamas rarely ever speaks English, dumbass. I would. I do like a Arab accent every now and then. We just lost the Ukrainians, you won back. Come on, dude. I mean, listen, I think this was an impressive act of espionage. But like, yeah, I'm going to still do the Zelensky voice.
Does this change Russia's thinking? Well, many felt these peace talks in Istanbul were another example of Moscow's slow rolling, a peace process that had very minimal interest in seeing lead to a ceasefire.
Bro, dude, it's kind of crazy watching Russia operate on the Israel route without being the favored client state. You know what I mean? Like, they literally saw what Israel was able to do with like the ceasefire negotiations and how they could string along the dumbasses in the American government. What's stopping Ukraine from doing another mission like this with the drones? Russia can't possibly screen every truck coming in. I know, which is why acts like this are not about the immediate impact, to the planes that they blew up, but more so the threat of more incidents such as this one happening. That's the real story here. Also, for the record, blowback is not a concept exclusive to the United States of America, chatters. What the kind of blowback do you think Russia is going to experience, especially after it permanently annexes eastern Ukrainian territories? You think people are going to forget? You think they're just going to turn around and be like irredentist actions are different at the end of the day. While Ukrainian nationalism is built around not being Russian, there still is a closeness both in language and culture and shared history between Ukrainians and Russians that does not exist for the Palestinians and Israelis. Like, Russians' actions are not settler colonial in the same way. It's still a right-wing government that is engaging in irredentist action, overtaking territory from a sovereign nation and destroying their sovereignty. And it will still inevitably bear a shit ton of resentment, understandable resentment, and also blowback to Russia. Russia cannot, as I said from day one, Russia cannot permanently annex Ukraine, even bits and pieces of Ukraine. It's a bit settler colonial. They're trying to depopulate areas and send Russians in. Yes, that is also true. That's USSR also did Russification in numerous places, including but not limited to Crimea. But what I mean is, Russia thinks that there are plenty of people who are still sympathetic to Russia in the territories, which will make it easier to occupy, which will make it easier to engage in constant surveillance of the Ukrainian population in an effort to squash any attempts of rebellion. They're wrong. I don't think they will be able to do that. That's why I said that it is impossible for Russia to permanently occupy Ukraine.
Let's get more now on these major developments. With us now is Admiral James Stavridis, he is a CNN senior military analyst and former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. Also, CNN senior political commentator and former Congressman Adam Kinzinger. He's also a former member of the House Armed Services and Foreign Affairs Committee and served in the Air National Guard. Good to see both of you. Thank you so much. Congressman, you first. Do you think this is a game changer or of some other significance that Ukraine could pull this off?
Yeah, look, this is a huge deal.